We're joined from there by Omar Barghouti, who's a Palestinian human rights activist. Omar Barghouti, yet another crisis. We heard William Hague saying today, the third in 6 years, at a time when the Middle East is in the worst situation it's been for decades. Do Palestinians really see any value in another military eruption?
Well, the problem is with the framing. This is not a conflict as in this type of conflict. It's this type of conflict with an oppressor and oppressed. So if we want to end all violence, we've got to address the root cause of violence, which is Israel's regime of occupation, colonialism, and apartheid. Unless that is addressed, there is no way to prevent a flare-up in the future, because the occupation is violence, ethnic cleansing is violence, and there's a violent resistance in return. We've got to stop all that by ending the occupation and giving people their rights.
And do you sense in the West Bank there's broad support for Hamas's firing of rockets into Israel, nearly 1,000 rockets in the last week?
This is not about Hamas. Hamas has been demonized, and this has been turned as if it's a conflict between two symmetric parties, the State of Israel and Hamas. This is the State of Israel attacking 1.7 million Palestinians in the occupied, besieged, and tormented Gaza Strip. Palestinians in the West Bank, as in Palestinians within the State of Israel, Palestinians in exile, as all stand together with the Palestinians in Gaza, facing the brunt of Israel's militarism and field testing of new Israeli weapons and military doctrines.
Well, explain to our viewers, because of course the Palestinians, as you've just said, say that Gaza and many Palestinian cities in the West Bank are under occupation. In Israel, there's many who are saying we ended the occupation of Gaza and many years ago, and this is the result. What are the conditions like, were they like even before this crisis erupted?
Well, the problem with Israel is that it continues to ignore international law and tens of UN Security Council resolutions. The UN has decided that Gaza is still under Israel's occupation because it's still the occupying power that's effectively in control of Gaza's borders. Israel cannot single-handedly declare that the occupation is over until it's over. Plus, in the West Bank, where the occupation is much clearer, there have been no missile attacks on Israel, but we have not seen any less violence, perhaps not F-16 bombings lately, but tens of Palestinians have been killed and injured in the last few weeks by Israeli occupation forces. The Israeli occupation wall, which is illegal in international law, continues to grow. Israel's illegal colonies continue to be constructed, and Palestinians are continuously being ethnically cleansed, especially in occupied East Jerusalem, in Hebron, and elsewhere. So Palestinians in the West Bank are not seeing any better treatment simply because there is no missile attack on Israel in resistance to its regime of occupation and apartheid.
So where do you see any possible solution that can ease the suffering of Palestinians, and in this case particularly the Gazans, and also assures Israel of its security?
Well, of course, there's one clear solution. Gaza is today our Guernica. We've got to end this regime of occupation. Without addressing the root causes, we're going around in circles. It does not matter when ceasefire is reached, by whom, and so on. What matters is ending the conditions that lead to the flare-up of violence every once in a while. And that's the existence of occupation that denies people their basic rights. 2/3 of the people, Palestinians in Gaza, are refugees from the 1948 Nakba, or ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. Avraham Burg, the former Speaker of the Israeli Parliament, today in Haaretz wrote that we know that more than half of those people in Gaza have lost their homes in the very villages and towns and kibbutzim that are being attacked by the resistance missiles today. So we've got to address the root causes. Those are refugees who deserve the right of return. All Palestinians deserve freedom, justice, and equality. That would end all the problems for everyone.
Omar Barghouti, thank you for joining us from Ramallah, recalling the roots of a conflict that go back to the creation of the State of Israel in 1948. And every few years, a conflict, a military violence erupts again. There's many calls from all sides saying the only way out of this is a political solution, and yet a big effort by the US Secretary of State John Kerry to get the two sides back to the negotiation table collapsed in April, with the two sides saying they're going to take a pause. No sign that they will return to the negotiating table anytime soon, and no sign here that this crisis, this latest crisis, will end imminently either. That's all from us in Gaza. Back to you in London.